Hi all, this is Nidhish, and I hope you have already completed all the exam for this quarter, and you're set to prepare for the next one. Obviously, there's no point worrying about how the exam was done. What is completed is done, and at this stage, you should start planning and strategizing for the next quarter. This is a very important juncture because at this moment, you can plan how you should attempt the next quarter. And for this, many students have asked me to suggest some of the uh, techniques, tools which will be useful to prepare for the and plan for the next quarterly exam as well. So here I'm going to suggest few tips based on my personal experience as well as the teaching experience as well. In fact, when I give the training to the corporate employees within my employer company, I suggest the same thing that we should always plan for any exam or any test well in advance. And few techniques which are applicable for corporate employee are also useful for all of you. So for any accounting and finance professional, we should follow some of the tools and techniques to grasp the concept better. So let's start for ACC exams. Now you can start to assess how much time you really need for next quarterly exam. Are you planning to write one paper or two papers? Together with the coaching time and the class time, how much time you need per paper? Suppose that you need 120 hours, including the class time. So, and you plan to write two exams, then you might need 200 hours to 250 hours by first week of June or maybe first week of September. So you need to plan your timing accordingly and divide that in equal hours on daily basis. That way you don't feel too much pressure suddenly, and your quality of the preparation will be also good, and you don't have to worry about whether you will pass or fail because you know that you have factored all the time that is required to pass the exams, and you can be your best judge. So that's why I'm not telling you how many hours to study, but you know it better how much time you need based on your past experience, past attempts, right? Also, when you are planning the number of hours, you should factor everything in a very realistic and practical manner. Just like accounting and audit subjects teaches us to be prudent and transparent, that's what we need to do for our own exams and personal and professional life as well. If you are planning for next quarterly exam, you should also think of any new project that can come up to work or in your business, in your personal life, and etc. If you need to plan some party going somewhere in some celebration, any festival or occasions, anything that is likely to come between now and exam time, you need to factor them appropriately because ultimately you get bored and you need to unwind yourself and you have to spend some time to refresh your mind. In those circumstances, you'll spend a couple of hours which you might not have factored earlier. Hence, when you're planning, factor all such time off as well. And it is not a wastage of time, trust me. Time off is as important as the studies. So factor them. Next thing that you should also start looking into is on download the question paper, model answers, and understand what type of questions are coming in the exam, what is expected in the answer, how answers are organized, what are the uh, tips and techniques given in the examiner's report, what type of suggestions are given, where past students have made the mistakes, and how you should be avoiding them. You need to start making your own bullet points based on your learning and try to have a plan and strategies based on exam paper, their answers, examiners report, what examiners have found with the other students. You need to learn from others experience and strategize now. Also, Many times students make a mistake that they will defer the revision or the practice for a couple of weeks. They might be attending the classes, taking the coaching, but unless you go back to the books at home, study, read, practice, synthesize, think over the theories and the practice and the practical questions, you're not going to grasp the idea. And it will not take much time to forget what has been taught in the classrooms as well, unless you revise them often. And if you don't do that for 2 3 weeks, suddenly it will become a massive amount of work, and it becomes motivational demotivational as well, because no one wants to kind of face a mountain of work or the study suddenly. Hence it's better to chunk make the small chunks of the study or the chapters and keep getting rid of them. Don't let them accumulate, because that becomes overwhelming few weeks later when you start to pick up the book and you want to say that, okay, let me study today, and you'll realize that, oh, 5 chapters you have not revised. It becomes a very demotivating, and very likely you will again put down the book and will say, let me do something else. So avoid those pitfalls. These are very practical issues that many students have complained. Many students actually get frustrated with often, because they realize that they should have studied on regular basis, and suddenly they think that, oh, there are so much to revise. Of course, if that happens, you can let us know. You can get in touch with your faculty, the professor, the teacher, etc., and get your help, get their help and advice. We are here to help you, but on the same time, I time to time keep reminding the students that don't let the work accumulate. It will become overwhelming after some time. So keep that one in mind. And in order to get some extra additional marks, you need to always bring more than expected. That is best way, whether it is a work or academic life. If you bring to the table more than expected or more than what is asked for, sometimes it helps. And here what I mean is, if you're explaining, say, Porter 5 forces or hedging, speculation, or any audit step, if you give some example of the real life, some of the famous scandal in the audit, maybe Satyam, Enron, Parmalat, some of the other issues which major audit firms could not figure out, if you bring them in your answer, if you relate your theoretical answer with the real life examples, that will make more sense even to the examiner, and it will give an impression that you understand the theory and you are able to relate that to the real life. That would be the best thing the examiner would like to see, because they are also often getting bored. When they will say the same kind of numbers, same ratios, same bullet points repeatedly after dozens and dozens of the answer sheets, imagine, as a human, what will they be feeling? What would you be facing if you are just going through the same repetitive kind of answers, the same structure, the same formulas, etc.? It becomes very boring and tiring as well. And on the same time, one student comes up with saying that, you know what, the Porter 5 forces, and this is how Apple or Netflix like companies are utilizing, and they are creating the barrier to entry, or they are negotiating better with the suppliers, etc., and you give some real life example, that becomes much better as an answer. And the examiner would love to get such kind of answers as well. Hence, try to relate the theories and the models to the work, and some real life examples to get extra marks. And the next point I don't want to miss is sharpen your saw. There was a famous book of called Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen P. Covey. He was selected as one of the top 50 influential minds and motivational speaker of the century. And one out of the 7 suggestions that he had was to sharpen the saw. Means when you take care of yourself, your vitality, your energy level, and when you make yourself fit, you can be always more effective. And that's why this analogy that sharpen your saw so that you can cut the tree better. If you have 7 hours to cut the tree, even Abraham Lincoln said that he will spend 5 to 6 hours to sharpen the saw, because your mind, body, everything needs revitalizing. And many times, students, those who are especially working in offices as well, they forget to unwind, they forget to take care of themselves, their health, their food, the sleep, and all these things, and eventually they run out of energy. The mind does not work as efficiently. Often when you're writing the answer, you need to be creative and relaxed to think you know appropriately. You are not able to recall the informations, you are not able to synthesize the data given in the exam paper if you are not fresh, if you are not healthy enough. So it is important that you take care of yourself amongst all these demanding work and life. Next, practice to write the answers, because what happens is we often feel good that I know the model, the formula, I have also practiced some of the numericals, and I have been getting the classes, everything is going well. But remember the professional marks. And the best way to capture the right professional marks are actually sufficient professional marks are to practice writing the answer. Because once you practice, then you develop a cohesive and coherent approach of writing. When you're writing paragraph upon paragraph, start to make sense. It becomes like it provides a bigger picture. It is easy to comprehend what you're trying to say when you practice them enough. Otherwise, sometime when you just try to practice 1 or 2 days before the exam, or into the when you start directly writing the answers in the exam, you sometime forget to establish the link from one paragraph to another paragraph. And if it is not linked properly, the examiner is lost. It does not make a story, it does not create a flow, and when the flow is not there, it becomes difficult to understand, and professional marks are also at risk in that case. So practice often, it helps you make the right impression and get the professional marks, which can be differentiating factor between the passing and failing. And next important thing is to keep an eye on the past exam paper, model answers, practice the questions from the exam kit, and see what kind of answers are given versus what you have been writing. What is your biggest weakness? Try to practice the model by writing them a couple of times, because in the exam, some of the mistakes that students have made in the past, in the exam they forget to recall what was the formula or how the formulas are used, what is the meaning of delta, and what is the difference between the long call, short put, etc. So some of the basics under the pressure are forgotten during the exam. So those basics and the fundamentals should be practiced, written, discussed often and often, so that you don't have to spend time during the exam trying to recall them. Nothing can be worse than that, that at the time when you should be focusing on synthesizing the scenario, the facts and the figures given in the exam paper, sometimes students unfortunately sit down and start thinking that, okay, what was the model given and what was in the left, what was in the right, and they waste a lot of time, and then it develops the anxiety, it demoralizes them during the exam. And I want you to avoid those pitfalls well in advance. Be prepared to get rid of those nuances. So practice the models, formulas, revise them often, put them in the paper, and stick in at your study tables, stick them onto the wall in your study room, so that while doing exercise in the morning or while brushing, you can look at the formulas or the models, and you can stick on the wall and revise them. Because that way, during the exam, you don't have to really struggle trying to figure out what the model was saying and how the model was drafted. In order to enhance further the memory, it reminds me that some of the memory techniques can also be used, and you can use acronyms. There are mnemonics. There are some 2 3 techniques like association, exaggerations, and recall, step methods. There are various memory tools and techniques which are essential for us to use in such exams. And I'll give you one example of how memory map works. So memory map was developed by Tony Buzan. He is no more, but he was a genius of memory. He developed the technique whereby there is a central idea and various other secondary ideas or the tertiary ideas stem or branch out from that, and those ideas are represented in a very creative, in a colorful and different shape, in a very creative manner, right, in a very interesting way, so that it is very catchy to eyes and the human mind. It is colorful, it is very interesting, it is funny, it uses different senses of the human body and the mind. Hence it helps you retain the information and the data much longer, and it also helps you understand things better. In fact, um, I'm managing the transformation and the technology platform in JP Morgan. I work there as a vice president, and I take care of the transformation. So often I have to express or communicate the required design or the platform's design basically to colleagues and other senior stakeholders. In those situations also, the memory map kind of techniques works because I am able to showcase how data will flow and how the processes work efficiently. So memory map is a very efficient tool to communicate your ideas and also to revise the concept. And I'll give you an example here. I will show you how the memory map looks and how it can be beneficial. So here is one of the example of memory map. As you can see here, at the center, we have IAS1. So if you are studying for financial reporting or SBR paper, such kind of techniques can help you, not only for financial reporting or SBR, also for the financial management, advanced financial management, be it audit, SBL, whatever the paper in the ACCA or any other professional exam or your workplace. This kind of techniques will be helpful. So start with a central idea, then use different colors, as you can see, and branch out the key ideas out of that. So when we are talking about IAS1, what is the purpose of those standards and what is the key features? When we are talking about the balance sheet or statement of financial position, then all right, so what are the key items under the balance sheet? Assets, liability and equity, and then presentation. It is important to have proper presentation in the financial statement, and then you can continue to branch out the key idea, current and non-current liability, or assets, liability and equity. So then comes the payable, receivables, so on and forth. You can continue to branch out and clarify any concept in a very organized manner. So features. Often students forget what are the key features of IAS1, and we can just summarize it here. Fair presentation, going concern, accrual basis, materiality and aggregation, offsetting, frequency of reporting, annual versus semi-annual, so on and forth. We can also put some animated characters, some funny pictures, some other pictures, see the writing pad, etc. And it will help you retain all these information better in a more colorful, in a funny way, in a more branched out way. And if you start to revise the entire IAS1, which could have gone into 25-30 page, and the essence of that 30 page is here in just one page for you to revise. So that kind of magic is possible if you use memory map. And there are various other memory techniques as well. I keep telling students that use the full potential of your mind. It is infinitely powerful, right? You cannot forget something if you use the mind appropriately. You need to develop the memories. And memory map is one of the technique. So I often prepare this and for various subject, and I also teach students how to develop this. And if you develop, use them, it will be a long lifelong asset, because you can use this in various aspect of work, personal and professional life as well. So that's something to showcase how it works. And finally, one thing I also want to suggest, and it is from my own experience, while I teach for various professional courses such as ACCA, CFA. I also teach to MBA finance students for Manipal and various international universities, giving lectures in IIMs as well. So one thing I always noticed, that those students who are active in the classroom, those who participate, who discuss, who clarify their doubt, those who even add some points to what I'm teaching. Basically, those active students are very, very likely to pass and pass with great marks and scores. Often I have seen that those who got the highest mark from my class were the most active learner, most active students, because they were always vocal, they were able to express themselves, they were able to make the point, they were actively listening, clarifying their doubts, and also adding the relevant points. So what is the takeaway? If you're active, when you are contributing to the discussions, you are more likely to understand the concept. And that's what the psychologists and various learning experts also suggest, that it is always better to be actively participating, discuss, clarify, explain the concept to someone else. That way, your understanding and the memory will be much better as compared to those who are just listening. Today, we are learning online. Everything is becoming digital. So it is much more important, because you are not in the class, you are not in front of your faculties and the tutor. So it is much more important that we don't just become the screen. We need to stay active and discuss. It will be in your interest, it will benefit you, not only in the exam but also a long term, because that's what you need to carry after passing all the ACCA paper into the workplace. And if you have understood well by discussion, it will also help you discuss the same thing much better when you enter the professional life. I hope it is helpful. If you have any question or the query doubt, you can leave that in comment. If you want to make want me to make any additional video on any point, you can also leave your comments. Then I or any other faculty from FinSecond Institute will revert and come back. We are happy to make another video if that really helps you on the topic given. So thank you so much for listening, and take care. Best of luck with your results and planning for the next session.